Are we in studio?
Live in 5, 4, 3. Good afternoon, sir.
Good evening. It's evening time for us in New Jersey. Thank you all for joining us. And we have a kind of an interesting show today. Well, we have to discuss what's about to happen in the next 4 weeks. We have an interesting month coming up, and a lot of things are coming to a head. And you guys, if you have any thoughts of projections or predictions of your own, just posted in the chat. Oz, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing great. I'm just getting the sound dialed in and just getting to say hi to everybody. Hey, Al, Jordan, Auntie Ann. We've got Sirius, Brett McKinney, Barbara. We got J9 Campbell. Good afternoon or evening, wherever you are. And I think that's got the roundup. If I missed anybody, I sincerely apologize. I'm doing good here, Amos. How about you?
All right. Okay, holding on. So let's jump right into it. So figures on COVID have not been very enticing recently, as you know, and I've tried to look at projections. CDC provides projections based on various models. There's various organizations and universities and so forth that are publishing their own models and submitting it to the CDC. CDC then compiles it. And if you look at the first slide, it's an interesting slide. It provides the information on how many cases are projected in the next few weeks, next couple of weeks. Basically, we have the CDC told us that there's a huge variation between the various modelings that were done, and each of them is assuming different types of social distancing and so forth. But of course, not all of it can be predicted. I mean, if there is a closure or whatever, that's going to have an effect versus whether there's further push to reopen the economy, which is going to have a different effect. So all in all, if you look at the right side, all of these models cancel out each other, and it looks like a flat line, which we know is probably not going to be the case. Looking at the left graph, one can see that there's more of a already upward slope, and the one I think, to me, it looks like the one that ISU has predicted, the one that seems to be continuing up the slope in the same trajectory is the most likely. Unfortunately, it's also the most sharp, steep one. And then the next one, yes, that one is interesting because that discusses the deaths. And here there was really the CDC explained that previous predictions were completely off. So we really don't know what to expect in the upcoming models, whether they're going to be accurate or not. But regardless, we can see that the trend of total deaths is going up. We're currently at about 240 or slightly below, and we're inching. We're probably going to hit something like 250 or even above that, according to those. And finally, the last slide is showing you the numbers from today. CDC calculates that number differently than other organizations, but basically you can see that the numbers are not that great. What are your thoughts, Oz?
Well, I think we're in the middle of a disaster that's going to be a gift that keeps on giving. That combined with the economic horror that's going on, Amos, I think that a lot of places are naturally going to be having to cut resources without enough federal funding on this. What are your thoughts in that respect? I would think that in this there would be a blank check given to any first responding agency, hospital, IE. What do you think?
Yeah, this is something that worries me. I think we're going to hit that nightmare scenario that was predicted in the first wave, and we avoided in great part. And that's that the numbers are going to overwhelm hospitals, and we've seen that already in a couple of states where the closest hospitals were like hundreds of miles, 600 miles away. They had to send people across state lines, and if that trend continues, that's going to be an unmitigated disaster, because then we're all these numbers that we're projecting are going to be worth nothing, because people are just not going to be able to get the treatment they need.
Yeah, I agree. Now the numbers. What do we have? A death toll of 127 or 227 right now?
Yeah,
220.
about that slide shows you that. But yeah, it's economically. I think it's a mirage to say we have not turned a corner, or how does Trump call it? Turn the curb. I don't think we've turned the curb. If anything, we're turning the curb upwards, and until this thing can be shut down more, we're going to have trouble. The tracing, the contact tracing is no good at this point. Once you pass a threshold, you can't possibly trace that many people. So the only way of curbing numbers at that stage is closure. There's really simply no other means, knowing that even if they roll out some sort of vaccine, it's not going to be immediately available to all, and even if it is, the latest studies show that it's going to wear out very fast, so only be valuable for a few months, and then you're not going to be immune again.
Well, that's going to cause panic in itself, is it not?
Well, we're already at that stage. I don't think it can get worse, but I think that those ideas that we can just rely on a vaccine and all of a sudden, poof, everything's going to be fixed, which is the narrative that Trump is pushing again against all the scientific evidence, is just not true, and I think we have to deal with things in different ways.
Yeah, Jordan Allen. Lockdowns will kill people as well. Most of all Americans, where we have to next zero safety net, it kills us from a stress standpoint. The elderly especially, because they lose touch, that closeness with their family members as they're declining or getting ready to pass away. So that's a big number that's going to grow. It's ironic, you pointed out that Trump was, what did he say? He had a handle on it, or the curve is coming down. And immediately after that last debate, all the statistics prove him exactly wrong.
Yeah.
Am I correct? Doesn't that prove him wrong? We have hot spots flaring up all over the place, California, Arizona.
Absolutely.
It's
Yeah, the
crazy.
trend is opposite, and I agree with Jordan. It's a very difficult bind, but assuming that we could just ignore things and open things up, as hard as closure is, assuming that you could do that, it's not going to work, because then we're going to be forced to even a worse catastrophe, economic catastrophe, and worse steps that we'll have to take down the line if things are not controlled to a certain degree at this point. So we're going in a dangerous direction.
Yeah, we are definitely. I just little housekeeping here. I want to explain to everybody. We've activated Roar Media as our secondary stream channel. We've been having so many problems with YouTube and the algorithm, specifically pointed at some of the shows like. Like Convo Couch and Kyle Kalinske and everything else. But it really hurts us who are just building. So if you could jump over to that link I put in there, and if you'd like to accept a hat, I'm going to hat anybody in there. It helps us out. So if we get lost on uphill, we'll be over there on Roar Media Live. Just briefly, Roar Media Live is a group, they're our own group, and it's mainly headed by women. They are the directors, the producers, and everything else over there. So we're going to maintain our mission of elevating people of color, identity, women in social media. So thank you for letting me interject that, Amos. I appreciate it.
Sure, sure. So let's move to the next thing, and that is what happens with the elections, and that's I know that's a point of stress to everybody right now, and I'm particularly stressed about it. I've read an article in the Atlantic by Barton Gellman, which kind of alarmed me, because he goes into the full scenario of what could happen in terms of the dispute or the contesting of the vote. And basically the scenario is such that if there is any way for him to plausibly cause any doubts in followers' minds that something was tampered with or the count was wrong, he's going to do so in case he loses the elections. And either way, I think in the day after the election, he's going to try to do some manipulations to prepare people to that expectation. If that happens, the concern is that he is going to run the clock, because there's a given constitutional date by which electors have to be sent to Washington to vote for the president. And if there is no determination of who the popular vote was, there's really, surprisingly enough, the Constitution does not require that the popular vote be necessary for confirming a president or electing a president. So at that point, if the popular vote cannot be officially determined, then it falls onto the legislature to provide their own electors, which they could do in the opposite direction. So say the expected vote in a state is such that it favors Biden, but there's a dispute, and the legislature is Republican. They may send a Republican elector to elect Trump. Now, if the state is fully Republican, that goes that way. If it's not, then we have a situation where the governor may send one elector of their own, and the Republican legislature would send another one for Trump.
Do you think they'd really get away with doing something like that, Amos? I mean,
they were intercepted discussing these scenarios and planning for such a situation. So we know that that's been discussed. There's other scenarios that can happen, but this is perhaps the most straightforward way that they can mess with the elected with the vote. And at that time, the Congress has to ratify or to approve of this vote. And one important thing to know is that whoever the Congress or the Senate that is elected, meaning not the one that we have now, but the one after the elections, is going to be the one that determines which of these is acceptable, which of these electors should be authenticated. So the whether the Republicans get the House or the Senate is of extreme importance also in this process. Now, there's also another moving part, and that's the Supreme Court. And we really don't know what the Supreme Court is going to do. What do you think, Oz, if it's going to be up to the Supreme Court to rule on any of this? Do you think they're going to be favorable to Trump or to Biden or neither? Or what's going to happen?
Honestly, just looking at it from a historical standpoint with Bush v. Gore and some of the other ones, I would say no. I don't think they're going to be as favorable to Trump as they basically gave the election to George Bush. I think that the public is pretty much over that one as far as buying their garbage, and that's a tremendous amount of pressure on not only the view of the Supreme Court, but the integrity of our justice system overall. I don't believe, long story short, they have the guts or the the nerve to pull that crap again in this climate with pandemic, the climate devastation, the COVID, everything. I do not believe the Supreme Court would feel it's in their best interest to throw this election to Trump. Besides, I think that the world oligarch, again, is going to pick who is going to be the winner of this campaign, this election, and I think they've already picked Joe Biden, frankly. That's just my feeling. I'm still going to say I think that Trump could edge it out, but this is just crazy what's going on. So, yep, that's my view.
Yeah, I think it is crazy. But my feeling is that the Supreme Court is probably going to err on they're probably going to exclude themselves from ruling on this and leave it to politics. So they're going to say there's a political question, we don't want to be involved in it, and that's going to be a mess, because then you're going to have all this crazy play between the vice president, the Congress, all the other forces in the states. It's going to be a crazy scenario, and it's hard to predict where things are going to land.
Yeah, I agree, Amos. I mean, they probably don't want to grab that hot potato because it's too hot right now. It's way too hot, and if they let politics fight it out, it will probably work itself out to the outcome that's going to be what the wealthy want. I just don't believe that they want such an unstable leader in this country in the sense of many things. But the guy, to me, is unstable. He is not presidential by any means. And this is just how he looks. I'm not even talking about his policies, but he was out today just tearing down CNN and Anderson Cooper and, just definitely kneecapping, the fake news and everything else. We know they're corporate-sponsored news, but he's taking it to a new reality TV show level. That's all. And I think that the powers that be are sick of that crap, too. Once again, that makes me lean towards Biden. So...
Mm-hmm. Now, there is something called the Transitional Integrity Project, which was started by the Berggruen, I don't know how you pronounce it, Berggruen Institute, and Niels Gilman, as opposed to Barton Gellman. Niels Gilman is the director of programs there. If you look at that's the next slide there.
Sorry. There we go. Got it.
Yeah. So they basically ran scenarios in a war room to figure out what would happen in different if different scenarios were taking place. For example, if Biden won by a slight edge, but if Trump won by a slight edge, if one of them won by a tremendous edge, the only scenario in which they didn't end up with serious contest issues and court involvement and crazy news in disinformation in the social media, and maybe even street protests or riots, was the scenario where Biden won by a landslide, which I don't think is likely to happen, but who knows. But even in that case, I think that Trump is going to try and say that's impossible. You can see my support on the street, and that doesn't jive with what the elections say, so this is wrong. So I think even in that case, it's not gonna stop Trump from disputing it.
Well, yeah, he's first. He's going to be full on election day tactics. He's going to come out and declare victory at 5 o'clock East Coast time, right? That's as soon as the polls close. He's going to declare victory. He's probably already declared victory. Once again,
he
I heard
said in advance that he was the only way that he would lose is if there was a fraud in the elections.
I think today I read that they were talking about the vote won't be counted anywhere from 3 to 3 weeks. Is that right? Fully counted. And
yes.
Yeah, Annie, if you want to jump back, there's eight at Uphill, or excuse me, 8 in Roar Media and 18 at Uphill. So I just any of you who haven't got a hat yet, please jump over to Roar so we can give you a hat. Like I said, we're just trying to configure that for future things. Sorry again, Amos. Go ahead.
Yeah, so basically I wanted to have Mr. Gilman on the show. He could not. He had a particularly busy week, he said, but perhaps that's still going to happen in the future. What I found fascinating is that the Institute itself and the people involved in it became themselves part of the conspiracy theory realm. And that is because people on the right have suggested that the Institute was not just merely trying to predict what was going to happen, but that they were running scenarios on how to create problems for Trump, or in what scenarios they could produce a coup or whatever, which is completely unfounded. But nevertheless, the fact that this type of work and what's interesting, it's important to mention that their work is not isolated. There's been work scenario. It's kind of they were running scenarios in Georgetown University and other places with similar results. So it's not like it's just this one institute is saying this. But the fact that they became this target for conspiracy theories shows you how much of a cycle of disinformation and confusion there is in the social media right now. And that's the truly frightening part. The division, the hatred, the fact that nobody can see anyone on the other side having legitimate concerns or worries, and then having these fires stoked with this false information and narratives that just outrage these people. And that is truly what worries a lot of people, because they can see people who've seen it in other countries where things have devolved into civil war and such, can see those signs now in our society. And I don't know, this is the real ominous part of it.
Well, Jordan Allen says that Proud Boys are one of the many white nationalist groups who will launch an attack if Biden wins. They get most of the media coverage period, I would say, as well. So, that could be a possibility. I don't think anybody's going to be happy. I don't think there's going to be a lot of jumping for joy versus how many people are going to be crying in their soup next week, because both sides, it's just, I don't know. Have you heard the voter turnout levels for the mail-in ballots yet, Amos?
I haven't. I don't know the exact numbers. I know, and that's because it's like state by state. But I do know that there is much higher response than people have expected in most places. So some people think that it's a good sign for Democrats. I'm not sure, but it's a good sign for democracy if people participate.
Yeah, I think that. They have record turnouts that I'm seeing as far as, voting so far. I don't know with the more mail-in ballots, how the metric measures all that. We've been mail-in ballots in Washington State for, I don't know, since the early 2000s at least. So it's going to be interesting. And next Tuesday, I would take a nap the day before, because it's going to be a busy week next week. People are going to be there quite a bit. So it's going to be crazy.
And so that brings me to the whole aspect of disinformation, and the fact that there's already been so much of it, especially with Giuliani conspiracy theories and some unsubstantiated things that related to Hunter Trump, and all kinds of things that are popping out of nowhere. And that is before the elections. What we'll have after the elections is going to be what happened in Florida, but on steroids. They were going to try and cast doubt on every possible ballot state that they lost in. So I don't know. Where it's going to end, but there are a couple of organizations. There's Fast Draft and the Carter Center, who are now trying to monitor and combat these things. And also, let me just mention that we're going to have all the links to these places in the notes under the right there. So you can hop onto these places, the different projects. For example, Fast Draft has some information about how to combat disinformation, especially for podcasters and people in the media. And I recommend everyone in our group and in other groups to train on this and watch and see how to combat that danger, because that is really truly the most dangerous things. People get into these cycles of being frightened from what the other side is doing, and it gets spiraled out of control. It just ratchets up and up.
Yeah, I don't know. Are we going to have an October surprise, or is it too late at this point, Amos? Or has there been that we're not aware of?
What do you mean by surprise?
Well,
to what extent?
People have been talking about this big October surprise. Either, I don't know, some people say the Hunter Biden thing was an October surprise. I don't know where they get that from, but Trump was going to drop some bombshell that was going to get everybody to vote for him. And, historically, there's been October surprises in the past. Do you see one happening? It's a little late, isn't it?
No, I think they tried everything in their sleeve. That Hunter Biden thing didn't seem to be to get much traction, and that's probably because these things have been used and overused, and people are, even supporters of Trump, are not even sure that this is all legit. So at this point, I think they kind of outrode their horse. And I don't think there's much that they can pull past this point, especially because half the population's already voted.
It's too late. I was having this discussion with a lot of our peers, and we're thinking if there was going to be an October surprise, it should have been in the first couple of weeks of October. So I still hear some
Excellent.
people who are leaning towards, oh, he's going to drop a bombshell. Well, tomorrow's Friday. They don't drop anything on Friday. They drop it on Sundays and Mondays and Tuesdays. That's when they drop things. So
If they had a bomb, they would have dropped it by now because people are already voting. It wouldn't make sense for them to wait any further. It just doesn't make any sense.
no, it wouldn't. But this whole last 4 years is hard for me to make sense out of. It's been like a television program gone off the rails. So in so many ways.
But wait, there's more.
Okay, good.
Well, the really frightening aspect is the intersection between all of these things and the extremist movements, the extremist groups. And that is a fascinating point because if you look at, by the way, there's the last slide is relating to that. But there's the Proud Boys who Trump has called to stand back and stand by. For what purpose? Well, obviously for intervening in case he needs it. But it's important to also know that there's the Boogaloo movement, and that is a really frightening movement. Now, there's a link there explaining by USA Today, which does a good job of explaining what that movement is. But this movement has been growing. Those are anti-government people. They're some of them are the old school ones were white supremacist, white power people, and oddly enough, that's kind of diffused into people who are libertarian and anti-government, like the kind of like the Proud Boys, I believe. But there is a distinction. Not all Boogaloo people are right-wing extremists. Some of them are even supporting Antifa and people on the left. So it's very interesting. What unites them, though, is that they believe that the United States is at the point where it has to be burnt down to the ground and started over. And that makes their ideology lean towards starting trouble, possibly starting trouble between racial groups, ethnic groups, causing a crossfire and starting a civil unrest, which then would lead to a destabilization of government and their ability to take it over and end the United States as we know it today. Now, I don't know the extent of this group, but it's growing. It's not a small minority. So that's one thing to definitely look at and be aware of. I can imagine that be individuals. It's not likely going to be actions by the group as a whole, or by factions of the group, but rather by individuals in the group that take it upon themselves to do actions such as attack a black bus or some crazy thing that starts an unrest. So that's definitely one worry I have.
We need to clarify something for one of our members. Amos, Antifa isn't a group, it's an ideology. You agree?
Correct.
Okay, just wanted to
I agree. Yeah, of course I agree with that, and so is Boogaloo. Boogaloo is an idea. It's not there's no one organization called Boogaloo. Boogaloo Boys is just a term for people who are believe in that kind of point of view.
That smacks of Bernie Bros, Boogaloo Boys. It's labeling again, and they're trying to label things with ideologies instead of the actual facts of the matter. I don't know. I'm concerned with the political climate today, the social, economic climate, everything else. That this is a catalyst that once everything starts burning up and getting hotter, it's going to lead to what you were talking about a few minutes ago. About we're going to have political and social unrest, possibly like we've never seen before. Is that something you would agree with?
Well, that is the concern. No, if people get roused by these things, that's what they want, and that's we hopefully people are smarter. They can resist acting upon impulse when it comes to these things, and try and wait it out and see how this is handled. But that danger is that people are going to just like go out and just try to do vigilante justice on either side, and that will deteriorate things in nobody's advantage.
Well, if things start coming apart, both houses are going to have to come together and make some really quick moves to quell the masses, because we're at the edge of breaking here. We haven't got a stimulus. We've got people who have lost their homes. Food is starting to become a real problem, and if anybody's noticed, the supply chain is in shambles. They've been getting pressure. The GOP, the Trump administration, has been getting pressure from all sides to get a damn stimulus out here, just to shore up the capitalist holiday selling season. I mean, I can't for the life of me why Nancy Pelosi nor the Trump administration can come together, because this is going to blow up on both of them. It already has. So I
Right,
don't know.
it's strange because usually people in politics try to give people presents towards the elections, and we have the opposite situation.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is a perfect storm. And I wanted to wrap up with one interesting thing. There's this professor in this university. The last slide, if you are on that slide.
Is that it? Dr. Megan Squire?
Dr. Megan Squire in Elon University, and she's actually, surprisingly enough, a computer science professor, but she's using techniques that are used for data analysis and networking analysis on social networking. And she's been following these various groups, right-wing extremists and so forth, and checking their connections, checking their language and their communications. And one thing that she's noticed, she feels that the militia people are, their stance is that they fear that and it seems to be like a genuine fear. Somehow they believe that it's the left that's going to come after them, and they're preparing to respond to that in force. And that's a dangerous thing, because they have a justification. They feel like they're defending something, not the attackers. So that's both in one way it's a good thing, in another way it's alarming. And another thing that I found interesting is that map that you see behind you, and that's basically looking at the network, how they're connected since they had. This is a year after the Unite the Right rally. The Unite the Right rally is the dot in the middle. That's the nexus where they all met and were together. And after that, they kind of spread around, and some stayed in contact with others, and some didn't, and some have common friends in other groups. And you could see that by the size of the blobs is the number of people in that group, and the distance between each is the number of people that are interconnected between these cells. So you can see how what I found interesting is that, if I can read this properly, is the green dots are white supremacists, and they kind of span the entire. They're the glue. They're connecting almost all of the other groups, more so than any of the other ones. You can see the reds are pretty much staying together. That's the
Confederate.
neo Confederates. The yellows are the alt right, and they're also kind of staying to themselves. Although there is people on the fringes that are neo-Nazi, and people on the fringes that are supremacist, but they're kind of like a cohesion group. The anti-government, the blue anti-governments, are also kind of all to themselves, except they also send tentacles to other groups, as you can see, like the red, the neo-Confederates and so forth. But yeah, it's just interesting. The ones that are furthest out are the people who are kind of all on their own, and you can see that the neo-Nazis, there's not a lot of them. The neo-Nazis are there, but they fall somewhat in the alt-right, and then you can see them all the way out to the edge, meaning that they're kind of like all on their own. So it's very interesting to observe that. I'm hoping to have Dr. Squire on one of the shows. I'm really hoping she's going to agree, because I find her work fascinating.
Yeah, I was looking at your graph there, and I was wondering how they would plot one for people like me or us, being I would be populist, so I guess I would be a purple color, and then you would have the centrist or the third way Democrats, and I would definitely make them more pink than anything else. Then you have the Green Party. What else would you have? You would have those. You would have the populist progressives, the Green
You'd
Party,
have the
the
libertarians.
libertarians. Yeah, what would be they would be clear, or what would I don't know. I don't know. But I'd like to see that kind of a graph too, the breakdown, because it's just that social dichotomy between the two graphs. It just shows how divided we all are on certain issues. But if you were to juxtapose those on all the issues we did personally care about, I think that would really bring all those dots together. Substantive issues, not personalities, not race, not religious, but the things, the ham and eggs, the health care, the homes, the living, the standard of living, the economy, the jobs. I think we're going to be a lot closer than some people might think. Do you agree with that, or what do you think, Amos?
I think that there is desire to have alternative left, but I don't know. I think there's a lot of differences in the details and in how people look at certain things, just like there is with these folks over there. But it's so important to understand those groups and understand what the differences are, because it's not this. People just generalize, and it's not the same when you're talking about neo-Nazis and when you're talking about anti-government people, or you're talking about outright. I mean, their allegiances would be different, their motivations would be different, their actions would be different, everything about them. So we're not doing ourselves a service by kind of lumping them all together and not making a distinction.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I can't bring up an argument on that. I just, it amazes me. I have friends, I've done a lot of work for charities and group things of the past, doing for the people. And I found that a lot of the people who are probably supporting Trump now are they're saying things without doing the research on what Trump is actually doing. They're defending him. And most of those people that I am in contact with have a strong religious ideology that motivate them. And it fascinates me that they would throw so much support behind, obviously, a man whose religious ideology amounts to what you'd get out of a 25-cent bubblegum machine. So that's, it just blows me away. I don't understand Is it the engagement? Is it the mainstream corporate-owned media? What do you think it is? Is it the laziness of people to get engaged and figure out what's going on?
I think it's just overwhelming to people. There's just
That's a
overload.
good point. Good point. It is it's stressful. It hurts. A lot of people aren't physically or emotionally enough able to handle. They just don't want it. They don't want it. And we have been under this boot since Ronald Reagan, as far as I'm concerned. And then you go into Clinton. Then you go into the Bush and Obama. It's somebody's boot has always been on our back for something that we don't agree on, and it's been heavier and heavier and heavier every time. I think we're at the breaking point as a society, personally. So.
Obviously, we're in a disarray, so we'll see. Hopefully, we can fix it. But we're at a very difficult place right now. So we'll see what the next few weeks will bring. Guys, if you enjoy this show, you always support us. You can also share this link in this program with others you think might be interested. So don't forget to also, if you're not already registered, you're not already subscribe and ring the bell so you can get updates whenever we're live. And right, you can always use my my Twitter account, my Twitter @ALroy to send me ideas on topics you would like to see covered or ideas that you have or whatever. So.
Sounds good. I appreciate you having me on, Amos. Been a busy week, and next week's going to make this week look like a tea party. Ooh, tea party. I said that. Daily Dive in the morning, and tomorrow night, Brave New Future with Amber King. She's got a great show lined up for tomorrow night. Then we have No Joke on Saturday, right, Marcus? Or right, Amos, with Marcus and Shanda? And then the big Halloween party, Saturday night, Beauty and the Boomer. Just send us a request to join in the green room at roarmedialive@gmail.com. It's been wonderful. Thanks, everybody, for jumping over and hitting Roar Media. Subscribe. We need those channels so we can check the algorithms and not get boogered too bad by our lovely overlords here at the YT. So anyway, thanks again, Amos. I think it was a great show. And are we all done?
We're all done.
Okay, let's head out of here. Thanks again. Have a great day, everybody, or what's left of it, wherever you are.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.